Hello and welcome to this episode of Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. And I want you to be prepared. The real talk is in this conversation. And I also want you to guard yourself if dealing with a conversation around difficult marriages, people, there are different triggers that could happen with you in this conversation. There is a lot of graphic conversation. And I want you to be prepared for that. It may or may not work well for you. So just be okay with that if that's a thing. Also, in this conversation, we do talk about some of the taboos when it comes to people that may attend church, are faith based, or people of color, and as it relates to mental wellness. And I want you to also realize that that conversation relates to any community of people that are very proud and may not always seek out help. So I think this conversation is value added. I just wanted you to be prepared. Let's get into the discussion.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Widowhood. Our guest today is Mr. Reginald Lockhart, but I'm going to be calling him Reggie just so you know. So I'm just going to put that out there real quick. Welcome, Mr. Lockhart, and I'm going to allow you to share a little bit about yourself.
Hey Tina, look, it's always a pleasure to see you, my friend, and I just appreciate you and the work that you're doing with widowhood and everything. Well, just a little bit about me. 40 years in the ministry and teaching and preaching. I decided about 12 years ago to go to seminary and get my counseling degree. So I got my counseling, my master's in counseling, and my wife thought I was crazy. She called it the cemetery, right? Right. But I did get that, and I was very enlightened. A little bit about me. What else is about me is my mother suffered from schizophrenia, and that's one of the things that led me into the counseling program in clinical counseling. I'm currently just rose up my business, Train the Brain LLC. It's about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. I have a wife, Dorothy, of 42 years, and son, Josh, and daughter, Tyra. My son is getting his PhD in at Boston University. I'll be there to be there to see him get his doctorship, whatever. And then my daughter, she has earned an Emmy from 2017 Olympics and everything. So they're doing well. And I guess that's all about me.
Oh my gosh, I remember like when they were little itty bitties and they like
Yes.
grown doctorate. Oh, hold on, let me pull some of my gray down because I feel like I need to hide some. Or get my hair down. Dr. Josh.
I hope that wasn't too much.
No, that is
Oh,
fantastic. That is fantastic.
yes, yes,
I have not been keeping up is what I am hearing. Wow, that is so
uh,
cool. So I'm trying to circle back, but I'm
yeah,
stuck on Dr. Josh. I'm gonna try to pull it
yeah,
up.
yeah,
But widowhood, one thing I want to
yeah.
share with you, when my late husband passed away, the first thing that Reggie sent me is this book that I share with everyone. I wasn't ready to say goodbye. And this
Right,
literally was my lifeline because there was just too much going on. There was too much I didn't understand. And
right.
Reggie called me. I want to say it was like that first weekend. He said, "Hi, how are you doing?" He said, "I know that was a dumb question. I know how you're doing. It's horrible." But
Yes, I
we
did.
but even in all he knows, we just automatically ask those questions. But he said, "I got a book for you. I'm going to send it to you." And he wanted my address because we didn't keep we kept in touch phone number wise, but didn't have addresses.
Right.
And I said, when this gets started, I wanted Reggie to be one of our guests because as we're sharing our stories, one of the huge parts with widowhood is to have resources. And
Yes.
you may not all be able to be on Reggie's time and on his schedule. And personally, he may not be the person that you organically connect with. But what this
Right.
conversation is to find a very valuable, knowledgeable source that can help you navigate through a very difficult time. And Vanilla Lee, Reggie's going to represent a lot of people that are in this work out here to help us because it is a very difficult time. So I'm going to
Right.
pick his mind. We're going to have some fun and just have this discussion. And I'm appreciative for him taking time out of his schedule to be here with us. So, Reggie, what gives you hope these days?
Ooh. What gives me hope these days is actually continue not to drink the Kool-Aid of my youth, if you will.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, there was a lot of things told to me, being outside Detroit, Toledo, Ohio, in the projects that 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 was really harsh. You know, abusive, the whole 9 yards, either from my mother or bullies or whatever. And that has stuck with me somewhat through high school. And as I got older and started learning more, right, I started learning, look, Reggie, you're not that person of the youth, right? Don't drink the Kool-Aid, right? And so with the counseling in there, the counseling has helped me to learn that if you will, child adaptive ways in uh, dealing with abuse or dealing with a trauma and everything, I can embrace that and embrace my child adaptive ways and convert that into something that's productive. So that's what I'm trying to learn to do. I'm even learning each day, and to tell the church, I'm learning each day how to be kinder to my wife, you know, how to cook her breakfast, how to take care of her and everything, because she did have cancer and there's some remnants left, neuropathy left for the cancer. And so I try every day to be better. So and I guess that's what gives me hope. The ever learning. I guess that would be the key.
That's some solid information right there because what I hear you saying is no matter what's happened in our past, there's opportunity to reformat that. There's an opportunity to
That's
take
right.
whatever I've experienced and I can learn
Right.
from that. I can't get rid of it because what's happened, but I can
Right.
use it to learn for my good and be able to leverage that as I continue living.
That's right. Take responsibility. You know, that's what you want to do. There was a show called Unprisoned, and it's
On
a very good
Hulu,
show.
right?
And in it, yeah, on Hulu, right? And forget who the actors are, but what's significant about it, right, is that there's a woman whose father forever was in prison, 20 years. He finally gets out and everything, and so um, it cuts to the daughter having her child friend, her child self with her. So her child self is always holding her hand and like that. And the child represented the methods that how she adapted with her father leaving and going to prison. So the little girl is very abrasive, you know, saying dirty words and stuff like that, right? Because that was her feelings when she was that age, right? And so it's how she learns to embrace her youth, her past, and how to project positivity towards her future. So it's pretty good, and that's what we're doing. You know, that's what sometimes we got. Like I heard a preacher said, we got to get our head out of our past and stop shitting all over ourselves. You know.
I know what you're trying to say right there.
I'm
But
trying to.
wow,
I'm in the ministry, right? We got to stop shooting all of what I could have did, what I should have did, and that's all in. It's all part of CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, which is that stinking thinking, all or nothing, you always, or catastrophizing everything, everything's catastrophic, right? Those are just bad ways, and we just got to convert those ways into something positive.
Wow, that is some very practical information. When have you had people come to you or in conversation say, I feel like I'm stuck in grief?
Yes, yes, I did. I had uh, a young lady. I did a grief class in Virginia. I did it for a couple of years, and I had one young lady who her husband was shot and
Hmm.
shot down in the front yard. It was a terrible incident, right? Um, and by a young boy down the street. Nice neighborhood, ritzy neighborhood, everything. Just who'd have thought? And the her husband was an ATF agent, and to be shot down by a little boy in the neighborhood for some money. And so she lost it because what she did is that she actually told him to go take the dog out for a walk, and he agreed to it. So she felt two things. She felt that she was responsible, and she felt the sudden loss of a loved one, which is horrific. And so she dealt with it with liquor, and she just drank. She said, Reggie, I just got a bottle of vodka and everything and deal with it. And the first thing I said was, okay, all right. I said, well, look, you're being honest. I work with you because we can't be judgy. We don't want to be judgy to somebody, because how would you do? What would you do if you was in that same scenario, that same situation? So the worst thing would be judging, because what happened is after the funeral, after everybody's going away, and Tina, I know I have to tell you, right? After everybody's going away, right? It's just you and the grief, and it leads you, some people, to very dark places. And so it's up to us as counselors, as people, as brothers in Christ, or what have you, right? Friends or neighbors, right? To help and not be judgy of them. So one of the things that what I've done with her is I begin to work with her on not the presence, not the present. Now, I mean, I'm saying not the past, but on the present. So I begin to work with her now and deal with her symptoms now, which is grief. The 5 stages of grief. She's going through all the stages of grief. And the thing about the 5 stages of grief, right? You know, it can be anywhere. Like, you can have acceptance one time, and you could be back at anger, and then you could be back at bargaining. So you could be all over the place because there's no set structure to the stage of grief, right? Just after a while, you begin to be more at acceptance, hopefully. So I began to work with her in the present, and said, look, I got you back. What can I do to help? And everything. After a while, talking with her and everything, because most people, what happens with grief is that, if you can imagine what losing, you can imagine a stoplight, and grief is like this. You're at the stoplight, okay, and everybody's there, and that represents the funeral, right? Everybody's there, your friends, neighbors, everybody comes, surround you and everything, right? But after a while, the light turns green. So everybody goes their way, and you're still standing at the light. You're stuck. And so everybody's gone, right? And so you felt like you're all alone. I had one young lady to say, blank God. I'm gonna let you fill that in, right? And she was an avid member of church, but that's how she felt because her mother was suddenly taken away from her. She felt ripped apart and everything. And so you have to work with people where they are. you know um I normally tell people in a grief, if a person just lost somebody, horrific loss, right? I don't send them to grief class. They're not ready for that. They have to build up to sit in class with other people. Otherwise, you'll just get anger.
If someone just lost someone, you would not recommend what again? Repeat that.
I would not recommend them to go immediately to grief counseling,
Now, is that a grief
because,
support group or just individual?
well, that would be a group. I wouldn't recommend it right away.
Okay, so
Because,
individual groups. So let me back up. So if I hear you correctly, so if someone just had this loss, The
Right.
individual one-on-one counseling is where they should be spending their time, not trying to be
Right.
in a group scenario.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, I can see
Correct.
that.
Yeah, because they're all over the place, and being in a group doesn't help. Because I had a couple, in there, they would go off. Why? Why did he take him? Why did he take my husband? I loved him. Made me. They would go off, throw papers and everything, and I didn't say anything because I know where they are. And then after the group, I would tell them, look, let's just do a one on one, and everything because you're not ready to be in a group yet. You gotta settle down. You need some more counseling, more therapy, like
I
that.
can relate to that. When Mark
So
passed, I immediately started working with a counselor one-on-one. And I want to say it
yeah,
was about 3 months. And I was seeing her,
yeah,
I can't remember if it was daily or weekly, but it was a very good, it was a good cadence. But by the time
yeah,
I did get to be with a group, it was good to be in a scenario where there were people in different stages.
yes,
And
yes.
and when I say stages, let me back up. They were their spouses
Hmm.
had
Gotcha.
passed in different timelines.
Oh, I
Not so
understood.
much so that conversation, when I entered, I was a person most newly who had lost their spouse.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was interesting to see them talk about different places they've been mentally
yeah,
in this
yeah,
process. And it actually gave me some hope as far as where I could go in this
yes.
process and continually to deal with the grief myself. And I say that so I know a lot of people say, well, I just want to move on or move forward. I don't know if that's really possible if you just learn how to repackage or live with it. I feel like grief to some extent is always going to be with you. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, grief is like fingerprints. Everybody's different. Everybody has their way of grieving, their way of getting through it, their way of moving on. It's like losing an arm, and but a lot of times amputees said that they still feel the arm. They still has to get used to it because the arm is gone, but they still feel it, right? And that's the way with grief is. With grief, there's just a process that each individual has to go through in order to grow. Tina, when it happened to you, I had read that book, and when it happened to you, I felt that you was like the lady when she found her husband in the bedroom dead in that book, right? And I said, "This is Tina's got to read this, right? And got to read this book, right?" I just felt I had to get it to you, right? Because that's what you needed right there. You didn't need and I what you didn't need me. You needed something that can relate, like she said, she went out every day, stood on the lawn. God, why? Right? And so I felt that you was like her on the lawn. And so as we go through grief and we find that connection with someone or something, whether it's God, whether it's another person, right? It's just hard to grow, to move on. There was a gentleman I, I in my curriculum. I have people in the church that went through grief, and one of the deacons in there said that his wife, his wife would ask him every year, "Hey, I want to redo the living room, and I want vaunted ceiling, I want this and that." He said, "Okay, I'll do it." So for 5 years he didn't do it. That 6 year she died. She passed away. So what does he do every year to cope? He redoes his living room, and that's how he copes with it. He just redoes the living room, and it makes him feel better. Is he wrong? That's how he copes with it. He feels closer to her. He feels connected and everything. That's why with mental health, it's as well as a spiritual thing. We got to have that connect. We're relational. We have to have that connectedness with someone and everything, and that's how we get better.
Wow. There's a couple of things I want to circle back to with that. How
Sure.
mu how much of a role do you think guilt plays in someone's grief?
Woo! Ooh, that's a big one because depending on what happened, guilt just seemed to just crawl in and just find its way in somehow or another. We want to find out the why, what happened and everything. It must have been me. We try to find out reasons why. Oh, like the young lady she sent the young lady that sent her husband out to walk the dog. He got shot. She just blamed herself. It must have been me. And I kept telling her, you didn't have anything to do with it. You didn't have the gun. You didn't pull the trigger, right? You wasn't even out there, and you had no intent. And sometimes it's just walking them through the process of what happened, or going back and talking about the process of the death, is to help them to understand, and allowing them to filter, allowing them to talk the way they need to talk. And I tell people, look, yes, I'm a preacher, but if you want to use bad language, I don't care. I need to know exactly how you feel. I need to know. I want you to just be honest with me. And sometimes I go like this, woo. It's a lot, but people actually need to say what it is they need to say. A professor at one of the seminaries told me that a pastor and his wife came for counseling for their marriage, and he welcomed them in and everything. Him and his wife were part of the counseling ministry, and they asked him for one thing, right? They said, "Look, can we cuss during the session?" And he was like blown away because they're a pastor and wife. He said, "Well, oh, wait." And then he thought about it. He said, "Well, God sees them, at home. He sees them everywhere. So whether they do it here or not, I mean, he just thought about it. He said, sure." He let them do it. And so they came in, and it was a lot, but they got to say what it is that was in their heart. They got those releases. They got that. They got relational. They got that connectedness right, and they just did it for one session. And after that, it was, they were good. They were good.
So
I hope I answered.
no, 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 you did. But what I want to circle back to, so you started off by letting us know you went to seminary, letting us know that you have been a pastor. But I hear also a lot of churchy taboos that you're not afraid to deal with. You're not removing people from a space because they say, "Oh, I'm grieving and I'm drinking alcohol." Not that that's the long-term resolution, because there's repercussions from that being the long stay, but that's where they're at initially. I hear you not running away from someone using profanity or different things that they're doing.
No.
Do you feel like a lot of times when people have a faith and they're doing things uncharacteristic to what they think their faith has brought them to, that adds to their guilt and grieving?
Yeah, it does add to it because they don't know the grief or the trauma is just there. And so their mind is everywhere, and they're trying to figure it out, and the guilt, the anger, the shame, um, the pain, all is that is happening at the same time. We have to be, as counselors, Christians, and everything, we have to be not judgy towards that. We have to be loving toward that. But Jesus said, "With loving kindness have I drawn thee." And so when somebody's going through and having a lot of problems and issues and everything, a lot of times with grief, you know what I do? I sit next to the person and don't say anything and just let them talk, because they're trying to find me. It's kind of like the compass were just like this, and they're trying to find true north. And the only way to do that, right, is to talk your way through it, to endure the pain. And it's amazing because in America, we say get over it, right? But other countries have wailing walls where you can stay for 6 months. And I don't understand, but America is so microwave and instant, right? Oh, okay, she's gone, he's gone, he's dead. All right, get over it. You're all right. But
That
it's
right
not like that.
there, that right there, I feel as if in America, we are challenged to give people space to be open about how they're feeling, that you have to present that I'm okay. You have to present that I
Yes.
know the funeral's over and we're going back I'm going back to work and life is such and such. But I feel like when people do that, and not everyone, like you said, everyone deals with it on their own
Right.
terms, but people that don't feel comfortable to have that safe space, they're stuffing their grief inside and putting on that
Yes.
posture that it does
Yes.
not serve them well.
Right. And that's correct. Well, I had a bishop whose mother died, and I know how close he is to his mother. I know I sensed that, right? And after she died, at the funeral and everything, I went and talked to him. I said, Bishop, you're hurting with your mother. He said, yes, I am, Reggie. I am. I'm hurting. I said, I know you are. I said, I'm here with you. And I would check on him every week to see how he's doing because he started stuffing, like as you said, throw it away, and just like men, I have a PTS group with the men. Men will sit on a pew and rot before they talk, before they tell what's going on within them, um um before they reveal those secrets and all that, they would just rot. And we as counselors, we have to go. I mean, that's what I do. I try to go into the pews and bring them out and talk them to the side and do those kinds of things.
You're meeting
Um,
them at their point of need. You identify that hurt and that pain and what it looks like. I think one of the
yes,
things that was so boggling to me initially, I had no concept of what I was up against.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
so I had a miscarriage before my daughter, but before the miscarriage, I had a friend and she had told me about her miscarriages and how that was. And I felt like that was sort of me looking behind the curtain
yeah,
of what it could look like. So when I got pregnant, the idea that I could have had a miscarriage wasn't totally foreign. It was like, this is a possibility of what could happen. So I kind of
yes,
prepared myself that it could go that way.
yeah,
It is amazing that we all have to pass this way. We all are going to either be the loved one that's been lost or we're going
yes,
to have a loved one that we're going to lose.
right,
And I hope with these types of conversations, this is someone peeking behind the veil. They may have not lost a loved one. They just may be interested and go like, what is that going to feel like?
right,
Because there's nothing out there really telling you we need to be prepared for our loved ones leaving.
right,
Grief will
right.
sucker punch you and leave you
Yes, it
just
will.
yeah.
It's horrific, and like I say, I met, oh my God, even when I as much training as I had, when my mother passed away, and she was in hospice for 5 years, and I'm thinking, we're good, we're visiting her and the whole 9 yards, right? Gone in the funeral when she died, me and my brother, we was lost it. And I'm a speaker, and they had to escort me off the pulpit to me and my brother to sit down because we lost it. And that's the way grief is. It's that, and like I always say, that's my favorite thing. Grief. Queen Elizabeth II said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." And one young lady, she pulled me to the side, and this is at church. She put, Reggie, why am I so mad? I feel so bad. I was cooking, and my son and my husband was at the dinner table, and they were just talking away, right? And I told them, stop laughing, stop talking. My daddy's dead. And it just came out. It scared her son and her husband to death. They were petrified. And then she just walked away to the kitchen. She said, why am I like that? I said, it's the relationship. One girl asked me, my ride or die. I mean, my mother passed away. I was okay. But when my ride or die passed away, I lost it. I said, it's the relationship. You had that close, you was close to your father, y'all talked every day, y'all. y'all just had that special relationship. The other young lady, I told her, look, y'all went shopping every day. She called you at 4 o'clock every day, right? That's a relationship. And so when that is severed, that is broken, you're just lost. It's as you had a loss and you're lost.
That word
So
sever
we just,
is
yeah,
important, and I want to spend a good bit of time here because I really want to
sure.
unpack the severity of what this grief looks like. So many times I feel like people kind of want to brush it underneath a rug and want to act
Yeah,
like just get on with life. But when you just sever something, everything is disconnected. It
yeah,
is
yeah.
impactful in a way that you
Right.
cannot even comprehend. I mean, I have been, as a minister, I have been in the room with people have lost loved ones, and I'm there,
Yes.
but that is, I feel for them. I'm compassionate, but you're kind of removed. That is their
Yeah,
situation. As you
yeah.
said, in all the knowledge you have and everything that you've been taught, it doesn't prevent the pain of that severing. You
It does
cannot.
not.
There's but people want to
Right.
think, okay, well, I know God, or my faith is this. That severing pain is going to be there. I don't know a way to
Yes.
eliminate it from existing.
Well, one thing, it's immediate change. Immediate change. It's like, okay, uh, Tina, this is your new house. Go there now. I mean, that would be challenging, right? But to have a relationship that's no more, that person is gone off the face of the earth. He or she is in a urn or beneath the ground or in a drawer is horrific. And immediate change is tough. When we change to go to church or we change clothes, right? That's a little something. Oh, I like that. But to lose somebody, that's the hard part, is immediate change, because people don't want it. I don't want it to change. Like
Mm,
we have these myths, and if I could ever stop these little myths, he's in a better place. No, they want him here.
yes.
Stop saying that. We tell you stop saying that stuff, right? That's not a good thing to say to somebody who just had a loss. He's in a better place. Okay, we're understanding where you're coming from, but that's not the thing to say, because they're looking at the better place is right here with me, especially your mom, your husband, whatever. We just had all these little myths that we say, oh, you're going to be stronger. You're going to be stronger because of this, right? Well, well, what's wrong? Jesus said that in your weakness, I'll be I'll be there. So why are we using these cliches? And a lot of it, I'm going to tell you, a lot of it is because some people don't want to help. Some people don't want to feel what you feel. Some people don't want to, what you call, so they try to tell you, just, in other words, just get over it so I won't feel bad.
Right there. So I want to look at that.
Yep.
We become very uncomfortable when we're in the presence of someone that's not happy, someone
Yes.
that is sad, someone that is grieving. Do you think that has to do with our lack of being educated that this is part of life?
It's a lack of education. Education has something to do with it, because a lot of things we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do, right? With the person there. That has part of it, and a lot of it is right. I'm sad about my life anyway. I don't want to get more sadder, but listening to you. So we kind of just, some people, not everybody, some people just, okay, all right, that's enough for me. I'm gonna walk away because I'm feeling some kind of way, and that's just not the way to be. The way to be is empathy. We got to empathize with people. We have to go where they are. When I first got into counseling, right, they told me, my professor said that when you're counseling, right, you're going into the cave of that person's issues. And when you go into the cave, right, you must tie a rope around yourself so that you don't get dragged down with their issues. Somebody can pull you out. And so a lot of times people don't want to go into the cave of your issues. They don't want to go into the casket of your issues, because those places are dark. And so I pride myself in and going to the dark places. I had a young man, and in counseling, sometimes you cry along with your client. Had a young man, he was 17 years old, and he was built, he was a stud, right? I used to tell you, "You a stud, man, look at you." I used to be like that. But he was a stud, right? And I noticed in counseling, you have to look at the way a person dress, you have to look at the way their eyes, their cognitive gestures, everything. You have to look at the whole. And he dressed in shorts and t-shirt, just always showing his body and everything. And so later on, he told me that he was raped for 4 years by his cousins as a little boy. And so, and I said, what? He said, yeah, they just call me fat. He was fat, chubby, and everything. And so after he got out of there and got some counseling and everything, right, he really worked on his body. And so that's his way of showing off, of overcoming. So I said, I would like give him fist bump like that. Good. And we worked together for 2 years, and he's doing well.
That is wonderful. What I take away from that it may be difficult and hard,
Yes.
but we have not we have to, but it serves us well to
Yeah.
not try to run away from the grief, but to
Yeah.
lean in and to work on ourselves and what that grief has presented for us because it
That's
it
right.
deals with us all differently.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. There's a there's a couple of and I got them at the Pentagon, right? It talks about that, and in grief counseling, it talks about leaning into the grief, and by leaning into the grief, right, it helps you to expose those things, those guilts, and all that stuff. In other words, get the pictures out. Look at the pictures of the person you lost, right? Going to the graveyard, right? Um, Sitting in the bedroom, right? Um, our family, we lost. My wife lost her mother. What we did is we got a globe and put her favorite scripture on it, and every year we would pass it around to each part of the family. But when we pass it at Christmas time, so we're all together and we talk about her. And so that's our way of getting through that grief and deal with it because but my wife and her sisters really miss their mom and everything. And so I've been that way. So what I try to do is I try to boost the conversation, talk about her, the funny things that she did and stuff like that, and talk about um some of the mistakes, some of the yeah, some of the funny things she did, some of her quirks and all that. We would just have a great time. And that just does so much for the family. And just like with person that we know that lost somebody, right? They're not looking they're not looking for necessarily a pity party. They just looking for understanding, somebody to sit with them. And you don't have to do much. All you have to do is just be with them. Call them, check on them. You don't have to have you don't have to carry your Bible. You don't have to have a thesis. You don't have to have a big long conversation. You don't have to have a a choir of ministers or anything like that. Just be with them. That's
That
it.
goes so far, just being present, just being in their present
Yes.
and not oftentimes not having to say a word, just being there with someone
Yes.
because everybody knows they don't know what to say. And everybody knows that no matter what you say, it is not
No,
going to make this change. This is where we're at.
exactly.
If I
And
have,
Tina, this is why people say what they heard.
mm,
This is why people say what they've heard all their life. He's in a better place. It's gonna be all right.
you just
So
regurgitate
they
these statements that have no value to them at all.
none. Just they're
None.
irritating. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut. It just irritates me to
No, no,
know.
no. You are so true because people they feel as if I talked to the widow, the widower, I talked to the grieving person. I gave them that cliche statement, my work is here and I'm done and I can move on. No, you left a hot mess because the person grieving, there's such in a mental fog. They don't even know
Yes.
how to tell you that was dumb as rocks and why did you tell me that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
no one is expecting someone who just lost their spouse. Oh, how are you doing? You're so strong. You'll get through this. I remember sitting on that front row
Yeah.
and people coming by and telling me, "You're so strong, you'll be okay." And I was like, "I can't slap you in church." I
And Tina, you wanted to get that bottle of vodka then, didn't
No, I
because
didn't
I'm
like
telling
vodka.
you.
Whiskey sour was my thing. Vodka too hard for a sister. But I was thinking, what really started
Yeah.
going through my mind, Reggie, did I tell
Yeah.
somebody grieving those statements? And I start going through the Rolodex in my head of every funeral I've been to,
Right. Right.
every
Right.
situation,
Right.
to think, was I that shallow? And I say that I may have, if
Yeah.
someone has done that, you did that because you didn't know. But after you watch this
Right.
podcast, and if you choose to tell somebody they're in a better place, then that's on you. What you
That's
want
on
to
you.
do is just give them a gift card for Walmart or their favorite spa, or just give them a
Exactly.
hug and say,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry," and
Yeah.
keep it moving, because all those other statements, they
Yeah.
don't they don't weigh that much.
Right. 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 Right.
If
One one of the things I did is I took the gentleman was 70 something, 75, 76 years old, right? And I just bought him a TV. He talked about that was, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago. He talked about TV today. Just
Because
gave him
there's
something to
noise in the house, there's something going on in voices. Yes.
Tina, exactly. Yeah. He just I and his son tells me all the time, Reggie, he just talks about that TV. I said, I don't know. I just felt just do something nice. And he just never, it just, and it was just a regular old nice flat screen TV, you know?
They're like
And so
$300,
he
they're
just,
not that much. I know a widow.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know a woman that's a widow. Every time I see her, I was hearing some noise, and I was like, "What is that?" And they said they were playing
yeah.
music through their phone, and I was like, "Why are you doing that?" And they said, "Because I'm alone, and I didn't used to be alone all the time." They
Oh,
had their spouse
yes.
with them.
Yeah.
So, all the time, the music is coming out of their phone, and I was like, but what I thought
Wow.
was, how great for her to identify what she needed and
Yes.
found a safe way to meet her
Right.
needs.
Yes.
And what I encourage people in that is to be honest about what your deficit is.
Yes.
This person died and I'm lonely. This person
Yes.
died and I don't like eating by myself. This
Yes.
person died and it's hard to sleep at night. We
Yeah.
all have a list of when our loved one died,
Yes.
and
Yes.
being honest about what that deficit is. Now,
Mhm.
how do I address the deficit becomes the challenge, and needing
Yes.
to do that. And
Mhm.
everybody's going to look at that differently. Some people may say that deficit is going to be a void forever because I
Yeah.
never want to feel that again because only that person
Right.
filled it. But there are some deficits that I will need to have fulfilled because I'm still living. And that is a challenge, I think, so much with that severing, because
Yeah.
so many things are lost and we don't even know how to attribute or identify what I've
Right.
lost when that person died all the time.
Right. The other thing too is that you have delayed grief. Okay, it starts off right, and sometimes you're just in a dark place, and you have to deal with the quiet, and the quiet can be devastating. Because then sometimes our demons float to the top. You know what I mean? With the quiet, because it's just silence. The relationship is gone. The whole thing is like severed, right? And then you with the quiet, and then comes sometimes the dark side of you comes out and everything, and you become promiscuous, or because you're trying to deal with it, and you self medicate, you know, or you just angry, just lay everybody out that you see and everything. Young lady just yelling at everybody, right? but but that's what comes out. And so we as Christians and counselors have to be understanding and be able to help flow with that darkness until they can come and start seeing the light. And that's what we're there to keep them above the water, keep them from drowning, right? And that's what we do. And sometimes all you can do is hold them. All you can do is sit there. All you can do is attach yourself to them, right? Check on them, tell them you got your back, right? And even tell them, look, I don't know what to say. I tell them, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say, but I'm here. I'm here. And that's what people need. And they don't need, like say, the long conversation, the thesis and the crowd of ministry and all that.
If I'm looking for a therapist, what are some things that I should think about in that search? Or a counselor or a grief support group, whichever those you want to select.
Well, the first thing I want to say about counselors and therapists is that they're like barbers and beauticians. You have to find the one you can connect with, that you like, you feel comfortable with. A lot of times we go to, I know many people go to a counselor. Oh, I didn't like person left and thought counseling wasn't for them, but it's not. It's like you just have to keep finding the person that you can talk to, you feel some sort of connection to. And when you go to your first barber, you say, okay, all right, and you didn't like them and everything. You just didn't stop. You just kept on calling people and trying to find a barber. Same with the beautician, right? You didn't like the way she did your hair and stuff like that. Didn't care how the shop was off. A lot too much talk or whatever. But you didn't stop right there because your hair got to get done. That's what we got to think about in when we have grief or we have something in us that we need to get taken care of or we need counseling. We have to keep pursuing it and until we find one that connects us, that we can connect with.
That is a very good analogy. Thank you. What you mentioned some earlier that let's say I went to a grief support group and it was too early and I'm turned off. Should I retry it or should I wait a little bit or grief support maybe is just not for me if someone told you
No,
that?
no, you should no, no, you should just wait. Just wait a little bit. Like I said, 60 to 90 days is pretty good, if you're not ready. And when you're not ready for a grief support group when you're irritated. You're irritated and you feel like the class should know. You feel like the class should be angry like you are now. You are not ready for the group. You just need to do the individual thing until you get better. When you when you're able to sit and listen, even if just a few minutes or 30 minutes and everything like that, that's when you know that you're ready for the group. Um, we had we had a few people that we had to say, okay, all right, look, let me recommend you a counselor, okay, and everything because you're not ready for this right here. And we see them come back and they were fine. It's just that they just needed a little time. And like I say, everybody's a little different, but I'm just saying in general, let's 60 to 90 days in there, you should be hopefully you should be fine to check it. And if you're still upset and everything like that, keep going on with the one-on-one and until you're ready for the group.
Thank you. You said something also earlier about people trying to find what works for them. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it may everybody's just not going to find the same thing that's going to work to help them get through their grief. The overall concept may be the same, but the exact path that we all walk through our grief may differ. But do
Right.
you
That's
think
correct.
people think like there's 5 steps? I went through this today. I went through that today. So I'm speeding through the grief journey. In a year, I'm going to be done grieving and I'm going to move on and my life's going to be fine.
Oh, if it wish it could be like that, but it's just not, you know. And as I mentioned before, but I didn't fully explain that there's delayed grief. Okay, we had a 65-year-old who lost her daughter at 20, at when she was 20 years old. Fast forward to 65, her second daughter was killed in an accident. So at the funeral, she was calling her her current daughter who died, her first daughter's name. So she had delayed reaction to that first grief, and probably she never processed the grief. And so when the second daughter died, here it all is. It's all there impacted together. And everybody in funerals kept saying, "Who is she talking about? Who is she doing? Who is that? What's his name?" And so they finally figure out when it's her sister or brother figured out that's her first daughter who died. So we have those different types of the that we deal with. We get stuck. We have delayed grief. We have all those things. And so that's why it's good to get with a counselor or support group, right? That can help you flush those things out. And she told me, she said, Reggie, I had to get with I had to get with my counselor. She got a therapist, as a counselor. She sat down and she worked that thing out. She did. And she's just a straight up, she's 65. So she's very straight up, and she was able to grow. And that's what it is. We want to grow because it doesn't all go away. It doesn't all go away. But what happens is that we be able to overcome. Um, and when we overcome, that doesn't mean that it's gone. What it means is that we're able to manage. We've got it managed now. We can manage it, right? And when we manage something, that means that it could get to us and everything, but we have our ways to cope. We have our ways to overcome, whether it's giving you breathing techniques, we give you whether it's yoga, music therapy. There's all kind of interventions that help you with the grief. Sometimes people get panic attacks, so breathing techniques help you. Be able to breathe in, breathe out, holding that breath. It just help with breathing. With breathing, helps you to calm down, right? Your favorite music. Sometimes I'll turn on my favorite music from the '70s. It just makes me feel better, you know. And sometimes sitting and just meditating makes you feel better, just to kind of just get isolated for a minute and just start to think. So there are different techniques that a counselor can help you with so you can be better and get better in everything. And it's you just have to know it's a process, but they're trained enough to help you to get you through the process. And if it doesn't help, find another counselor, find another therapist. Remember beauty shop, the barber shop.
There are more. I love the analogy of that mental wellness person having that rope around them. They're in there
Yes.
in the cave with me, but they're
Yeah.
slowly sort of pulling me out. I think also with grief, we have no expectation of the level that it's going to take us out. That
Yes.
and because no one's talking about it, then you feel like you have to act like I'm not having those kind of situations. That's not what's going on with me. That I'm perfectly fine. I mean, everybody's going to lose someone, but when you go home, those
Yes.
things in the dark by yourself, you're quietly suffering and dealing
Yes.
with things. How
Yes.
do I come if I've been doing that and I've been silently suffering, I've been putting on the look that I'm fine every day, and then I go home and I'm miserable and I have convinced myself this is what grief looks like. What would you tell me?
I would first tell you that I have talked to somebody in situations. I'd say, look, brother, I love you, but you lost the love of your life. You did. And I know you feeling some kind of way. You can pull this act with anybody else, but I know that you're going through something. I've been through grief, and it's a lot and everything. And you don't have to tell me, you don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to, but I'm here to help. I've got people you can talk to. You can talk to me. You can come over to my house. And I even told people I've got chicken and Kool-Aid, just to be funny, right? I've got
Hold on, what
chicken
your
and
what your
Kool-Aid. You
address
can come
is with the chicken and the Kool-Aid? Okay, you can text that to me later. Cause I'm sorry. Get back to what you were saying. My bad. My
Absolutely.
bad.
But I would tell people that, and it would just kind of break them down a little bit. And they would actually say something, yeah, and they'd be, oh yeah, it's rough. I said, I know it is. And just I know it is. And just to empathize with them, I know it's rough, and let them know, look, I'm not where you at, but I'm here for you. And that's what helped. Just keep empathizing with the person, you know. Um, don't criticize, don't judge and everything because we get critical. You should be past this by now. Like, and the other thing is you don't tell if a person is grieving for 5 years, it's okay. It's all right. There's no time limit on grieving. And that's what people want to put a time limit. It's been a year, it's been 6 months. No, 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 no. Never not. And that's what I tell and I tell them in that situation where they're not so open. I said, don't let anybody tell you how long to grieve because it's rough. You lost somebody that you love, somebody that was close to you, and now that person is gone and everything.
That
So
that
those are some of the things that I
yeah.
say to.
Though that's some good advice. So when you're not helping people, what is Reggie doing for himself? What do you enjoy doing?
Oh my God. I'm talking to Dr. Madison. I'm getting therapy myself. Yes, that's my supervisor. I'm talking to her, and sometimes she said, Reggie, I need you to counsel me. So we do. We have to. There's a thing that we worry about in counseling, right? Which is transference and countertransference, right? And as a counselor, we identify things in our clients that are in us, right? And vice versa, right? And so we have to be careful of those things, right? And so we have to kind of talk to somebody that we're close to, or a counselor, or I talked to my wife one night. I was just feeling bad after talking to counseling in person. I was feeling bad. I went over to my son's house and everything, knocked on the door. He opened the door and I just grabbed him and I just hugged him. He said, Daddy, you okay? I said, no, I'm feeling better now. And I just hugged him and everything, talked a few minutes. Okay, bye. He said, Daddy, you okay? I said, yeah, yeah, I'm okay. I just needed to do this, son. That's what I need to do. Those are my ways of coping by talking to my wife, hugging my son, with my grandkids, and or either get with Dr. Madison. I tug her ear a couple of times a month and everything, so I can um, stay balanced. And life is not perfect, but the people that you talk to can help you stay level if you have somebody that you can relate to.
So you are doing the same thing you're telling the people you're supporting to do.
Yes. Oh, you caught me, Tina.
Yeah. But I
I,
mean, at
I
least it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander then. It's not
yes,
a one-way
yes,
thing. You're not over here like I have the answers for
yes,
everything and walk
yes.
away. You're
Right.
making sure that you're taking care of your own mental wellness.
I work for the court services and offender supervisor agency, Washington D.C. And so I was helping young ladies to get back in the community after serving time. So it was like a rehab thing and everything. Young lady told me that she was with her daughter and everything, um, and she had did some time and everything. And her daughter said something pretty sharp to her, and before she know it, she broke her jaw. So she's sitting in the kitchen, seeing her daughter on the floor with a broken jaw, and somebody called the police, and she running the streets. She's running from the police because of what she done to her daughter, and she's telling me telling me all of this, and and I had to like calm her down, make her realize that that event is over, and you can never change what happened. And so I had to kind of restructure things for her to realize is that, hey, we're here now. This is the present, right? So what do we do now? How do we cope with that and everything? And she looked at me for a long time, and she said, I'm just, she said, Mr. Lockhart, I'm just glad you're here. Somebody listening to me and not just judging her or just, like that. And a lot of times we just need to slow down and listen to what people and present them in a new light and everything. I told her to write down 15 things her and her daughter did. Give me some, I call it the highlights. Give me 15 things, right? Boy, they were so excited. They wrote down the 15 things and I couldn't get them. I said, I'm going to get y'all to stop talking. Y'all talk too much, right? But it was just that they didn't realize the bright lights they had in life, all that darkness and what they did, the crimes that they did and everything, they still had bright lights. And so it lets them know that, hey, look, this wasn't all bad. My life wasn't all bad. There was some good at it. All I have to do was maybe I just need to keep leaning towards the good. I didn't mean to be too talkative.
No,
Sorry
no,
about
that
that.
is good because actually you linked into something I wanted to talk about. That there are other ways that you
Okay.
support people, not just in grief, but there are other areas that you support people in. And let me say grief. We've been lined up with grief as a part of losing a loved one. Do
Yes.
you help people with other type and from this conversation, other types of grief, other things that people lost expectation, and how does that work in comparison?
And you're saying pertains to grief.
Yes, just now I want to take grief. Um, we've been limited to the discussion of grief with the loss of a loved one.
Right.
Now I want you to take that grief, the word grief, expand it past that. What other ways do you work with people dealing with grief that is just not in that capacity?
I'm trying not to get real complicated or anything. So I work with a gentleman who enjoys murder, and he's killed peoples, and he enjoys it. He doesn't understand the loss, that his effect to others, and how he and I kind of work with him just maybe a couple of months and everything like that. What enough time and everything. But so I work with guys like that
And that's probably your
who
correction, people in correction, the facility and things of that nature.
yeah, people who are
I
locked
just wanna
up
make sure they know that this
and
person is
everything
not
like
out
that.
roaming, that this is it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
like some
Locked
private
up.
no, no, yeah,
No,
I wanna be clear that this is
yeah,
not some
yeah,
confidentiality that you're not talking about
right.
this. Okay, go ahead. This person is incarcerated. Go ahead.
No. And the person is 19 years of age. 19
Wow.
years of age, and he specifically told me I enjoy shooting people and the whole 9 yards, right? So he, because of his childhood and everything like that, and the losses that he had in childhood, the has led him to these endeavors, and so I had to work with him and explain how that all that relates to how he is now. Also, to have to deal with, I dealt with a young lady who was raped by her father while growing up and everything up until she left around 16, 17, and she had to deal with that. And so she kind of at a loss of herself. Sometimes we sometimes we lose ourself um, in in abuse, and we just tend to um, relive the trauma and everything. So I have to work with people who kind of lost themselves, lost perspective themselves, and in shame and the guilt and all that, right? So I it's just that you find grief in all way in marriage. I had a young lady say I was teaching a marriage thing and I was at a Baptist church in was it Maryland? As a Baptist church, and I was teaching about I was talking to divorcees, right? Of being divorced and everything. A young lady stood up in there, 300 people. I mean, was packed, and she said, "Why did he do?" She had top line, "Why did he do this to me? My life wasn't supposed to be this way." And I didn't say anything. I said, I just listened to her, let her say what she had to say. And then the ladies, it was amazing. The ladies got up, some ladies got up and went towards. I said, yeah, y'all spend some time with her. She's all right. Everybody's okay. This is the place to do that and everything, right? So there's that loss of a marriage, and then the loss of a child too, and then have to deal with that. There are a couple people I've dealt with had the loss of a child, and that is, of course, that is horrific, and um, the fortunate person lost one person there with lost six babies, and we talked to her and just kept working with her and everything, right? And I after a while I just teased her. I said, "Okay, so look, when you gonna get back out there?" She said, "Oh my God," and she did. Now she has two kids. So she's doing well. So there's all the different gamuts of loss of a child, loss of yourself. Where am I? And um, loss of a spouse. There's and people don't really talk about that. And then people don't know what to say. So I had the privilege, and I always say the privilege of working with people like that. And it always and it hasn't always been successful, but I just like to know that I tried, and give them something to look at.
Though that thank you. Couple of things that come to my mind, not
Uh-huh.
specific to that, but between people in church, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, sometimes I can only speak to my own community, people with a lot of melon that don't want to do mental health work. Some
Ooh.
taboos. How do you, how what do you I just throw that topic and you just go where you want with that.
Okay, so in 1990, I was I was an associate minister at a church in Germany, and I was with the chaplain in his office, and he had a book that said insanity, um, insanity in the church. And he was just old school, old, if you will, old geezer like, right? But he was very educated, everything. And I said, "What is this? Chaplain, what is this?" Right? He said, "Oh, don't you touch it. You ain't ready for nothing like that." And he was right, because when I went to seminary and as I got older in the ministry, I found out that people in the church community, the black community, this is all taboo. Mental health is just like, it's like witchcraft, or if it's like, don't touch it, don't even talk about it, don't even speak it into existence, right? I would go into churches and I would talk to pastors, and I said, "Look, pastor, do you believe in that therapy can help and everything like that?" And I get some negative reaction, I get some good reaction, and I get one, whatever you can do to help, just do it. Right. So you get all kind. And what has happened in the last 10 years, the community has gotten better towards mental health, and a lot to do is this. It's gonna look what's happening now. Look at John Morant, basketball player, got caught in the club just with his gun and everything like that. He realized that he had some mental health issues, right? The swimmer, he had some depression issues. Michael Phelps, right? Adele, postpartum. I mean, they had all kind of issues. Then you get with suicide. And I often tell people with suicide, people with suicide often the happiest people that you know, because they seem content. And I tell people, how did you feel when you think you made a great decision? We have to realize. So I realized that's how the churches seem to be coming along. They're not there yet, but they're starting to get. And then what it is the community is pushing the church to deal with these issues, and a lot of the pastors. And I thank God for the young pastors that are coming along and knowing that they have to deal with these issues. And I deal with a lot of pastors who have who have therapists, and that's what I love it. I love it because I think every pastor should have a therapist. Anytime you pastoring, you know, every time you pastoring people, you need to be talking to somebody. Just like the counselor I mentioned, alluded to before, that we counselors need to be talking to somebody, make sure that we're on point, you know. So yes, it's a problem. And especially for the black men in the church, we still just want to suffer in silence. We want to sit, we will die before somebody know our secret, our shortcomings. We just die because of those old myths that just haunt us, right? And there's the myth that men never cry. Um, Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't do us any good. This machoism, right? This Men always want to have sex, and all these other myths, right? So we have all these myths in our mind, Tina. So when we have a panic attack, we're like, this isn't supposed to happen to me. And you're sitting in the crowd, and you're shaking and can't breathe and all that, right? And we're afraid. We don't want to tell anybody, but we need to talk to somebody. And that's what the counselors and therapists and your neighbors and friends like that, you need to talk to somebody and let them know you have an issue.
Thank you. What makes you want to keep doing this?
I love it. I do. I love talking to people, and I love trying to make them smile. Um, I love the fact that they feel that they got somebody they can talk to. And I love what I do. And I do. And if I never got paid, in which I'm still a resident, so I don't hardly get paid, but I love doing it. I was talking to a young lady. I was trying to get something done with my mortgage and get set up a different way to pay my mortgage and everything. She ended up talking to me about her anxiety. So I talked to her for an hour about anxiety, and then we got the mortgage straight, and she was just happy to talk to me.
Wow.
So I just love
So
it.
if in this conversation I feel like, wow, I want to talk to Reggie, is that possible? And how do I do that?
You can go through me in Psychology Today. Request for me, and you can go through Psychology Today. I'm in there, and if you want to talk to me, I predominantly now I'm in North Carolina, so I can do mentorship. I can mentor like that in North Carolina because my residence in Virginia. If you're in Virginia, I can definitely talk to you. And if I can't, if I'm booked up, whatever, like I definitely have people to recommend. So like I say, reach me like say Psychology Today.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. We have talked about quite the gamut. Any closing comments or things you want to talk about that we didn't? Actually, we have as much time as you will give us if there's anything else you want to cover.
Well, I do want to say that suicide is up in the Black community. It is huge. Getting it's getting crazy, and it's higher in the LGBTQ community. It's higher there. It is especially high in the military community. It's just going up and up and everything. And so my thing is, what do you do when you think somebody's suicidal, right? Things that you can say and stuff like that. Person that's suicidal, have suicidal ideations or thinking about suicide, right? It's the same with grief. They're not taboo. You don't need to be scared of them or anything like that, right? You just want to talk. You just want to talk, and just how you doing, what's going on, and just be there for them and everything. A person that's is suicidal, one thing you can tell is they have a plan. No, if they tell you they got a bunch of pills or they tell me I have a gun or this like that, right? Then you need to let somebody know that this person's suicidal. You need to call authorities, let them know they're suicidal, whatever. There's signs of suicide. People tell you they start doing last things, arrangements, funeral arrangements, this, taking care of things, in things, making sure it's good and all that stuff like that. You want to check on them and say, look, you're doing a whole lot of things like that. What's going on and stuff like that, and watch them. Just watch them and just be there for them and everything. People get upset because they say that, look, what I don't understand, why did this happen? How come I didn't know and everything, right? And suicide is a decision. Person decides that, and that's what they do. We had one young lady that went to the range and took her 9 mil and cocked it, and you can see it all on camera, and pulled the trigger, and the weapon jammed. She took and reloaded it and did it again, and pulled the trigger, and she blew her head off. I don't mean to be so graphic, right? But she did that. But the night before, she was at church praising the Lord. Everything was happy because she thought she made a great decision. And if you're trying to find out why, those are some of the things you never know. And so, just try to be there for the person. I had a gentleman, I was at the Pentagon, and had a gentleman that just, every time he came to our office, he just went off, just nasty attitude. I mean, just negative statements and all that, right? And it was going on for a year. And I said, I told my boss, what is it? What's the matter with him? Right. Because, I was kind of new. Right. He said, you don't know? I said, what? He said, his daughter committed suicide. She's 15 years old. I was blown away. That man came to office, right? And everything, right? I closed in on him. I said, hey, man, look, I don't mean to be in your business or personal like that. But they said your daughter committed suicide. He said, yes. I didn't like it. I don't understand it, right? And so I just listened to him. And so he got to be my friend. He would stop by the office and we just talk. And he started his negativity, he started going down and everything like that. He's still kind of sarcastic and everything, but I know where that originates. And so I wasn't judgy, just kind of sat with them and talked with them and just kind of trying to just explain some things and everything. He talked about God, and he didn't care for God and everything, and told him, well, God cares for you and everything. That's why you're blessed and everything. And so that's what I would say. Then comments, right? Somebody that's suicide or have suicide ideations and everything, don't think of it as taboo or anything like that. Continue to talk to them and everything, and then by all means call for help if you think they're suicidal. Let somebody know. Just don't keep it to yourself.
Thank you. And also, at the bottom of the content for this podcast is a international link for suicide
Awesome.
prevention for wherever you may be, because this podcast now is airing in 8 different countries. So where by
Wow.
the time you get this, it may be beyond that. So we did put a link for suicide prevention or
Mhm.
suicide hotline to be able
Right,
to
right.
reach out to that, because that can be helpful. And yes, the conversation is very organic, very gritty, but the conversation itself is that. What are some of your success stories of people that you've worked with and where they're at, and what to keep you wanting to come back and do this?
Okay, the young gentleman that I spoke of, right? That a success story. The one that got raped by his brothers and cousins his cousins for 4 years and everything. He's doing well, was able to pass, graduate high school, and I'm going to college and everything. That kind of makes me proud. Um, the couples that I've talked to, a lot of couples who are still doing well. Um, and so they're 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 happy. we had we had a couple, and I'm a counselor, so I'm just playing with it. We had a a, a couple that she really enjoyed having sex out the window. So first question I asked is, how far are you up? Are you on the third, fourth floor? I just want to know. Safety. And she had this little giggle.
Hold on. You mean she was hanging out of the window as they were having intimacy? Oh,
Having
okay.
intimacy. Yeah.
She didn't took this to a whole nother
Mhm.
level. My girl. Okay.
He took it to another level. 60 couples there. I'm dying laughing. My wife's slapping me. Look, get yourself together, right? I'm laughing and I'm asking, well, how far was you up and everything, right? And the gentleman seemed to be very happy and pleased, right? So that was fun. We had a couple who'd been married for 20 years and she never had an orgasm. It was an intimacy issue. So we had to get them to intimacy, show them what intimacy looks like to them. And by her speaking her piece, and then he didn't know, he just was going in and out, right? So that it was 3 weeks later, right? When she came to the meeting, and I'm sitting around. She said, "Yes." I was like, "What happened?" I had one. We're like, "What?" She said, "I had an orgasm." Right? He's sitting right there, right? I said, I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, do you want to talk?" And talk about it? She said, "Yes." So she didn't go into the what you call it. She just said it just felt so. I just never. I said, I said, "Okay." So
20
y'all good?
years? Yes, you need to be able to talk about it.
She said, "We're good." I said, "Okay, all right. Well, we could go into a little, I don't want to mean no. I look, no pun intended. We can go into deeper later." So those are some of the success stories that I had. I had a young guy, and I won't be too worried. I had a young guy. He was like 17, but he's been on acid, LSD, crack, um, everything. He's done everything, homosexuality, everything, right? And he come to my office. He just, bipolar, the whole nine yards. So I've been to spend a few weeks with him and everything, and he just done so well after that. And bringing it now, he kind of like brings his friends to church and everything. Has a little ministry at the church that he started and everything. So that was good. So those are my success stories.
That is cool. So there is no cave that Reggie is not willing to go in with that rope and help somebody get out.
No,
That's what I hear.
I'm
That is
going down. I'm
amazing.
going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it.
Thank you. Okay, for real, for real. Any last comments? Anything else you want to say before we wrap
No,
up?
Tina, I just appreciate you. I like the work that you're doing with widowhood. I love it, and I'm going to make sure that I contribute to this, and because I want you to see you successful, and I'll continue to watch your podcast.
Oh, thank you. And you make a good point. Widowhood Real Talk with Tina is a registered 501c3. And we are doing this from donations. We are working on grants. And 100% of all of the funds that are donated go back into either producing the content, producing the
Wonderful,
podcast, the books that we give away. People volunteer. There is no payroll for this. This is really trying to take what was my pain and make it purpose, and to be able to lean into so many hurting people, to have hope, healing, and encouragement, and to know that you are not alone on this journey. So thank you for mentioning that.
Tina. Tina, they need, and especially in the Black community, with you being an African American woman, they need you in the Black community because we still stuff things under the carpet. We're still we're going to church in pain and suffering. So it's needed, definitely.
You make a good point with that. And I think that's also what makes my situation so unique, because Mark was European, white, Caucasian.
Yeah.
So my ability to go across those racial boundaries
Yes.
is because of love. I'm Black enough to realize what's going on in the Black community
Right.
and
Right.
have been with
Right.
a European man for 32 years to not
Right.
be
Right.
unaware of what goes on around me in the place to speak
Right.
to. These are different things that different people
Right.
struggle with, and we are
Right.
here with you in this journey.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we just and there's not enough people that do grief counseling. I mean, we need more, as many as we can get to understand and to talk to people. So that's why I support this widowhood. Definitely.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Well, that was real talk for sure. And I have no apologies for it. It is a conversation that needed to be had. And I want to do delve into the idea that I know I mentioned about some of the taboos or the way people in the African American community think about therapy. But I also want to add any people that consider themselves proud, people that don't like to ask for help, consider that all under the same umbrella when it comes to the idea of mental wellness, that they may steer away from some of that. I hope that this conversation has been inspiring for you to encourage you to seek out help as you walk through your grief journey. Or if you're standing side by side with someone that is dealing with grief, that you can encourage them, that you are empowered to realize how being silent and just being present is helpful, to be able to reach out if you feel like someone is suicidal, to be able to reach a hotline and to be present and to be aware that you value and that you are important. If you are the person going through grief, I am so sorry for the loved one that is no longer here that has driven you to this conversation. But I am glad that you have found and now part of our widowhood, and you know we are on this journey with you. Thank you for being here, and talk to you soon.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.